My name is Noelani. I began fostering in August of 2017, and shortly thereafter, in May of 2018, Anthony officially became my son when I got to adopt him. Well, when Anthony moved in with me, I was his seventh placement. So he had made his way around, and a lot of times the change in homes was due to behavior. So it was things from hitting the wall. That was a pretty regular one. It was kind of his warning to me that if I didn't change the answer, then things were going to get worse. And then that would turn into closed fist punching myself, himself, kicking, screaming, and it was regressive. He really looked like a 3-year-old having a temper tantrum, but he was in a 6-year-old body, which made it a lot more difficult to control. And you could almost see in his eyes that he would start cycling. And once he got into that, it was very hard, if not impossible, to get him out. And I would really just have to wait until he exhausted himself. And so the resources available to me were really through the state, and we had quite a few different counselors and therapists that would come in. We had one for behavioral, we had one for trauma, we had one for, there's a lot of different people, and sometimes we would have a lot of struggles after the session because we had brought up some very emotional things. The garbage can had been dumped upside down, but we hadn't sorted anything. We hadn't learned anything. It was just, we just pulled stuff out. So we started working with Barbara about a year ago. So Anthony had just turned 7 at that time. And immediately, one of the biggest differences, he was excited to be there. We got to go into the epic room, and he thought it was the coolest thing he'd ever seen. He was excited to play with the toys, and he loves the sandbox there. And his entire demeanor was different. He was relaxed, he was having fun, and Barbara, who's just incredible, was really gentle and loving, and she took her time with him. So there was a base work that was being done where she would not touch on any sensitive subjects. She would not talk about any behavioral issues. All she wanted to hear about were the things that we could celebrate together. And that was so important to start off with that part. And it really grew the trust that Anthony had with Miss Barbara. And so when she started bringing up and we would start talking about some behavioral problems that we had, he was so open with her. And her response back was so motivating. And I could see he was engaged with her. There was no question I had another person on my team. And what was really cool is I would actually see him use her words in his solutions later on when that same problem would come back up. So we would, as I said, we would have these very regressive times, and I could see when they were about to come. And little by little, something would happen, he'd hear no, or he'd have a disappointment that would normally trigger that response. And he would do things like say, "Mom, can I please have some water? It helps me calm down." And that, I handed him that water with tears in my eyes because I was so used to prepping for those really difficult meltdowns. And it brought me back to not thinking about my day, not thinking about the grocery store, but this little heart that's in my backseat and how to attend to where he is. And he knew how to verbalize that to me and allow us to start having conversations. While I know we're there for Anthony, I get so much out of it myself, and Miss Barbara helps equip me so that I can be that mom that Anthony needs to be able to continue this stuff on even after we leave that room.